Peterbot isn't just good. He's an absolute monster. With multiple FNCS wins, he's proven he just might be the best Fortnite player ever. But what actually makes him so special? Hey Elite fam, it's your 5th favorite Fortnite educator, EliteOryx, and today we're diving inside the mind of Peterbot to figure out exactly what makes him one of the greatest players in Fortnite history. Let's start with something that's way more important than people realize. Peterbot's building style is different from most pros. He doesn't waste mats. In fact, he actually invests them. Managing your materials is key in long build battles. And Peterbot is a master at not overbuilding and using just what's necessary. The mistake that most players end up making is they panic build the second they get shot at. They spam walls, burn through their mats, and then they have nothing left for the end game. Here's what Peterbot does instead. Peterbot plays smarter than almost everyone else. He builds just enough to control the fight without overcommitting. He also uses minimal builds in order to save mats for endgame. One of the things that Peterbot does not do is overbuild unless he needs to. He places just enough structures to control the fight. Another thing that he does in order to save mats is he moves through enemy structures instead of replacing everything. And lastly, he knows exactly when to build aggressively and when to hold back. Peterbot knows that late game is where mats matter the most. He always makes sure he has materials for when it counts. If you have ever lost a game because you ran out of mats, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. Materials aren't the only thing Peterbot manages well. He also knows exactly when to take high ground without wasting time and cranking 90s. Most players think having high ground just means cranking 90s, but Peterbot does it completely different. Peterbot knows that high equals control. Being above your opponents gives you better angles, better positioning, and forces them to play on your terms. So let's go ahead and take a look at how Peterbot takes high ground efficiently. The first thing, Peterbot doesn't crank 90s for height, so stop doing that. He uses smart side jumps, cones, ramps instead of wasting mats. He also utilizes mobility items like the Void Oni mask or the Typhoon blade to gain height quickly and effectively. And lastly, once Peterbot is on high ground, he holds it by constantly pressuring his opponents. He positions himself in a way so that the enemies can't easily retake it and they'll have to waste a lot of mats. Alright, now we need to settle this debate. Who do you think is better in their prime? The Fortnite World Cup champion Booga or the multiple FNCS champion Peterbot? Drop your answers in the comments down below. Now you guys all know building is important, but what really separates Peterbot in his editing, he's unpredictable, and that makes him nearly impossible to counter. Peterbot doesn't just edit fast, he edits smart. The goal isn't just to get an angle, but to do so in a way that leaves him safe if the shot misses. Smart editing allows him to stay mobile and unpredictable. Now let's take a look at some of Peterbot's key editing strategies. First, he uses minimal edits to take shots while staying safe. He only edits what's necessary to take a shot and then instantly resets. Peterbot abuses right hand peeks for safer damage output. He positions himself in a way to minimize risk while maximizing the damage output. Next, he mixes up his edits so opponents can't predict his next move. So if your edits are predictable, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're probably dead. You need to mix it up like Peterbot does. Now, from what we just learned, editing is powerful, but piece control is what traps opponents and forces them into losing fights. And no one does it better than Peterbot. If you have ever been boxed like a fish and felt completely helpless, yeah, that's what Peterbot does to others. Peterbot excels at this by using piece control, strategically placing walls, ramps, and cones to trap opponents and force them into losing positions. This not only gives him the upper hand, but it also prevents his enemies from escaping or even resetting the fight. So let's talk about how Peterbot controls his opponents. First, Peterbot is so fast at claiming walls, floors, cones before his opponents can even react. This one move instantly limits their movement and forces them to play on his terms. Next, he forces his opponents to make bad movement decisions. By cutting off escape routes, he'll place ramps to force opponents into tight spaces, cones to stop them from jumping out of danger, and walls to limit the routes that they can go. And those are just a few things that he uses to trap his opponents. And he also capitalizes on forced mistakes. When an opponent is limited in the movement, they start to panic. And that's when Peterbot strikes. Whether it's through predicting their edits, or forcing them into bad peaks, or baiting them with thinking that they have an escape route, Peterbot always finds a way to punish bad positioning. Of course, none of these tips matter if you don't rotate properly. Poor rotation loses more games than bad aim does. Many players lose games not because of their aim or mechanics, but because they rotate poorly. Peterbot is always thinking ahead. He doesn't just run to zone, he plans his rotation like it's a chess game. Knowing when and how to rotate is the difference between getting caught in the storm and securing a top placement. If you ever found yourself in a bad position late game, chances are your rotations need work. So let's go ahead and break down Peterbot's key rotational tips. First, rotate early when possible to avoid congestion. Don't wait until the last second to move when every single player is pushing in. Rotate as early as possible. Next, Peterbot uses natural cover. Instead of wasting builds, he'll use natural terrain, buildings, and even elevation to move ahead. He also avoids unnecessary fights mid-rotation. A common mistake that average players make is taking fights mid-rotation, which often leaves you exposed and low on material. Peterbot, on the other hand, prioritizes positioning over fighting. And lastly, he scans enemy positions. He has his head on a swivel and makes adjustments on his route on the fly. For example, if he sees multiple teams fighting, he'll avoid that area and rotate along a safer path. Now, some of you guys might think Peterbot is always aggressive, but his secret weapon is actually patience. Sometimes the best move isn't to push, it's to wait for your opponents to mess up. If you ever watched Peterbot play, you might be surprised to see that he doesn't always push fights immediately. Sometimes he'll wait, analyze, and let his enemies make mistakes before striking. Now, how does Peterbot use his patience to win more fights? First, Peterbot waits for his enemies to waste mats and ammo before attacking, making it easier to secure the kill when the moment is right. He also baits his opponents into overextending and then punishes them. Peterbot often fakes an edit or pretends to retreat, only to catch his opponents off guard. This creates free damage opportunities while keeping himself safe. Lastly, Peterbot knows when to disengage from a fight and to fight on his terms. The average player feels like once they start a fight, they must finish it, but that's not true. If a fight is not going his way, Peterbot has no problem disengaging and repositioning himself to win the fight. Now, if you want to learn how to be patient like Peterbot, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to show that you're serious about getting better at Fortnite. And that's the inside look at how Peterbot dominates Fortnite. If you start applying these strategies, you'll notice a huge improvement in your gameplay. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something more important than Fortnite. It's my faith in Jesus Christ. No matter how hard we try to be the best at something, we all fall short sometimes. And that's where Jesus Christ steps in. He offers grace, forgiveness, and a purpose beyond anything this world can give. If you ever feel lost or like you're struggling, just remember that God's love is always there for you. Stay uplifted, stay positive, and stay blessed. Peace.